Thank you, panelists, for a great discussion. Good afternoon. My name is Hurst, and I'm the Managing Director of Endeavor Atlanta. We launched our office 3 years ago with the support of Cox Enterprises and an amazing founding board. Endeavor Atlanta now supports 18 entrepreneurs, leading 13 of the fastest growing companies in the country, with over half represented on the 2020 Inc. 5000. Endeavor entrepreneurs based in Atlanta and Birmingham generate over $200 million a year in revenue, have raised over $410 million in venture capital, and have created over 4,100 quality jobs. Our regional ecosystem features leading B2B software companies like SalesLoft, LeaseQuery, Worthix, Fleetio, Rented, and Tricentis. We also have the world's largest blockchain payment processor in BitPay. And we have several double bottom line startups or scale-ups, like Chime Solutions, Greenprint, and Thrive Farmers. This year, we also launched support for Birmingham, Alabama, and created a new scale-up Birmingham program with 4 high-growth companies participating in our first cohort. Today has been an amazing day of learning, collaboration, and community. We hope you've enjoyed the experience. As we look forward to a world recovering from a 100-year pandemic and its impact on our economies, I can't think of 2 better people to inspire all of us as we work to build a better future. It's my privilege to introduce 2 friends and 2 of the highest impact entrepreneurs I know, and 2 people who are always dreaming up and building the future. I'm pleased to introduce my friend and Sharecare founder and CEO, Jeff Arnold, who also chairs our board at Endeavor Atlanta, and Endeavor's own co-founder and CEO, Linda Rottenberg. Linda, take it away.
Well, it's so great to be here, and I was able to catch that last panel, and clearly the entrepreneurial spirit has been infused throughout the day, and I can think of no better way to end it than with one of my favorite serial entrepreneurs on the planet, Jeff Arnold. Jeff, it's so good to be with you, and you're in my hometown, Boston.
That's right. Well, it's great to be here. I feel honored to be spending time with you, so thanks for having me.
So let's go back to 1998. We're still in Web 1.0. I think Web 2.0 officially took hold in 1999. So it's 1998, and you have the idea for WebMD. So walk us through the aha moment and sort of the decisions to become an entrepreneur and maybe some of the early challenges you faced.
Sure. So we go way back to 1994. I was a semester or so away from graduating, and I have 4 sisters, and one of them called me up and said, I can get you a job as a pharmaceutical rep. There's some drugs that are about to go off patent, and we're hiring, but you need to start in 2 weeks. And so I left school early, thinking I would just come back to graduate. And I flew out to California. I don't even think I'd been west of the Mississippi at the time. And I got trained in 2 weeks, and I started calling on doctors. And the same time I was doing this, my girlfriend at the time was going to Emory Nursing School, and she was working the graveyard shift at the Children's Hospital. And so I'd go have breakfast with her in the morning as she was, getting off work, and I was about to go to work. And I met this doctor, and he started introducing me to EKGs, and people that have heart symptoms often are like taking your car to the mechanic and saying, my car's making this noise, but it doesn't make the noise when it's there, and you drive away 3 miles later and you hear it. And so I started going to his house at night, and he started teaching me how to read EKGs. I borrowed $25,000 from my girlfriend's parents. Thank gosh, we're married and have 4 kids now, so that worked out. and I quit my job just like I had left school and learned how to read EKGs and started this heart monitoring company. And we were monitoring hearts remotely, and the internet came along, and the aha moment was, instead of sending out 60,000 faxes a month of EKGs to doctors on their patients, why couldn't doctors and nurses log in and see the EKG the same time we were seeing it? And I thought that, no matter if you were an EKG company in Atlanta, Georgia, or you were the largest insurance company in the world or medical device company, that health was going to need a homepage, and someone was going to have to come along and create a destination. And that's what WebMD was all about.
Wow. And when you look back on those, right, I forget, you were already an entrepreneur when you started at WebMD. You're multiple serial entrepreneur. but I didn't know the borrowing from your future in-laws. That takes even more nuts. Even
yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's a little beyond crazy.
Yeah, that's risk.
But I mean, I think there's always, points in entrepreneurs' moments when they have the question, am I going to go after that next idea? And I love the story, but I'd love you to tell the How Stuff Works story before we get to Sharecares. Or am I sticking with something, one idea, my career? I'd love to hear your sense in terms of, have you grappled with that? As you moved on, do you consider yourself an early stage company builder, but you've also taken them big, you've done a lot of M&A. Sort of, how do you as a founder think of what is the right stage? When is the right time to go? When do I have the commitment to stay at what I've built?
Yeah. It's, kind of ultimately kind of completing the journey. So, I had the heart monitoring business and we grew it to one of the largest in the country. And then we had the idea for WebMD, and it was really just an evolution of how do I just add more to that destination beyond the EKG. But I didn't have the right investors to take it to that next level. And so we ended up selling the heart monitoring business to a public company called Matria. And the next day we started WebMD. And so in that evolution, it was really just, I had 50 doctors were my partners in the heart monitoring business, and I needed a different capital base for WebMD. But it's a great question. To me, it's always just about, how big can you make it? I tell you one thing I've learned though in the last 20 years is, I was in my 20s when I was doing WebMD, and I don't think I had a great appreciation yet for how special that was, that how unique that you could build a brand that hopefully could last forever, that could impact a lot of people. And so I was just like, I don't think I was mature enough to understand like maybe what I was leaving behind when I went to the next idea. And it took me a long time to build a platform up in my own eyes that was as big as the one that I had left. And so it's been kind of an interesting learning lesson over the years of just like not realizing how special something is in the moment until you kind of leave it, and then you try to always replicate it, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not.
Are there other lessons that you learned in your early days that as you moved on to How Stuff Works and now Sharecare, you've either applied or said, I'm going to do the opposite of what I did the first time? I'd love to hear what those are.
Yeah. Well, I've always been, a big believer in relationship building. So the way we had success with the heart monitoring company is that we said, don't get enamored with the technology, even though we had some really cool tech. It's all about building relationships with the patients so that you get compliance. And if you get compliance, you get results. And if you get results, you get used more often. And when WebMD came along, I think we had a market cap that was bigger than Delta's at the time, and we weren't even a year old, back when it was kind of the Web 1.0, and money was, and big deals were happening so fast with the Microsofts and News Corps and the Janices of the world. I don't think I took
this was also pre-dot-com crash.
Yeah, exactly. It was before the dot-com crash, but I don't think at that point in my career I had an appreciation for the importance of that. The world's a small place and relationships last forever, and when you're given that opportunity, where somebody's willing to invest, in this case, $1 billion, then, build forever relationships. And I think I was kind of churning and burning, kind of on to the next deal. And I've tried, for the last, 15 years or so to make sure I don't ever do that again. That really, take time and kind of cherish the relationship and nurture it and hopefully grow it.
I love that point. And I think one of the things, my husband, who just wrote a book called Life is in the Transitions, and talking about life quakes or work quakes that people have, is that the story you tell yourself and the story you tell to other people has ebbs and flows and pivots and changes. But I think the network you build, it should last the lifetime. So I love that particular point of feedback. That's great. Yeah. So walk us through the Sharecares idea with our friend Mehmet Oz, and what you felt was missing and why you felt you needed to found it.
Yeah, so I never thought I would come back into digital health. That wasn't like something I was pursuing. And I had a company called How Stuff Works and sold it to Discovery Channel. And one day the CEO called me and said, we're creating something called the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I want you to get on the phone, or would you get on the phone with her doctor, Dr. Oz, and with Oprah and her people and brainstorm digital health. And I remember exactly where I was, and I was on this call, never thought I was even going to be called on, and Dr. Oz asked me what I thought, and I went to the Wayback Machine, which probably you and I might be the only ones that know what that is. But Amazon's got that website where you can type in like WebMD 1999 or Priceline 2000, and you can see what the website looked like way back when.
Wow.
And so I'm on this conference call with McKinsey and the cast of thousands, and I'm doing the Wayback Machine, and I get called on, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this doesn't feel like it's really changed. It's still kind of Web 1.0, but now smartphones had become pervasive. And I thought that if you could give data ownership to the person instead of the electronic medical record or the PBM or the insurance company, you could build trust. And that now technology had gotten good enough that you could build a platform that you could connect the ecosystem. So instead of the person going to the hospital's website or the person downloading the insurance company's app or what their employer wanted them to do, those stakeholders could come to the palm of that person's hand. And we could build value propositions with technology that would help guide their well-being and build trust, and ultimately viewed the smartphone as the greatest healing device that maybe we had ever seen. And so that got me kind of all inspired, and so we started Sharecare from that idea.
I love it. And I've known Mehmet since before he was Oprah's doctor and Dr. Oz, since he was just a fantastic cardiac surgeon.
Yeah.
What an amazing journey he's had. So one of the things about Sharecare is you've acquired other companies. And I think that when we talk about culture and the importance of culture, I've always found it really especially interesting for companies that do M&A, because that, as you know, at any stage, whether you're private or obviously some of the public companies, it's been spectacular failures. But how do you create a culture that can make acquisitions then fit in seamlessly? And when you have teams coming from different environments originally, how do you make them cohesive?
Yeah, so I think the way we try to do that is we try to align our business strategy with our people strategy. And the underlying concept is all together better. So when you think about it from a business standpoint, the way Sharecare is all together better is that we, on behalf of the person, are connecting the ecosystem, right? So bringing the doctor and the health plan and the employer to the person. And then next is we view ourselves as a platform, not as a point solution. So how do we take all these point solutions and turn it into a platform where all the pieces are all together better? And then lastly, how do you go from individual transformation to community transformation? So, by investing in people, places, and policy, and by doing it with others, we're all together better. And we try to take that same business strategy and apply it to our people strategy. So almost like a very kind of flat organization where we're all together better. And so we look for entrepreneurs and coworkers that that kind of have that same mindset, that we're stronger together than apart, and let's pick each other up. And I don't know, I feel like we, after doing this for a long time, have a pretty good sense of when there's a good cultural fit for us when we're buying companies or when we're recruiting talent. This all together better has really worked well for us.
I love that phrase. And looking back on this year, on the COVID year, with all of its ups and downs and things that it's accelerated, and obviously all the challenges it's brought to certain sectors. One thing that emerged in our Leading Through Crisis webinars that we held for Endeavor entrepreneurs again and again was this issue of, if you have to let certain grow, if you have that ethos of build together better, and you have this, we're all on one team, we're all in it, and yet you have to make the tough decision of furloughing or letting some people go, right? How do you inspire and motivate the rest of the team who's feeling demoralized, seeing people they cared about let go, and yet they have to, sometimes you do have to pivot businesses and you need a different skill set, but how as a leader have you found those transitions which involve, teams, letting go of the past, but rallying the ones you want to keep and move forward?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, for me during this pandemic, because I'm the chairman of the Forbes Travel Guide, which created the 5-star hotel rating system in 1958. It used to be called the Mobile Travel Guide. And just to see what's happened in hospitality, I mean, it's, I mean, I'm in a hotel right now. I think I'm the only person here. It's been really, really tough compared to digital health, right? Where at Sharecare, we're seeing the industry go from Blockbuster to Netflix overnight. And so there's been a real, been very different strategies, in each. I think what we've tried to do, though, in both strategies is still try to focus on growth strategies. So in the Forbes example, it's really been like we need to modernize our thinking. And we got to get into the headspace that we might never go back to actually physically being in hotels and rating them. And so what are data sets that we can acquire, and how can we use conversational chatbots and to be able to do virtual inspections, and how can we pivot to virtual training? And then on Sharecare, it's all been about, how do we stay incredibly relevant? And so we've had a really rapid COVID response from, building contact tracing to buying anxiety companies to, and I think that kind of pace in our culture, in our particular cultures, which is, focused on tech enablement, is focused on growth, is, stay committed to the mission and, stay busy and try to rebound in Forbes cases and try to thrive in Sharecares.
Yeah, and I think what you said is, I love that Blockbuster to Netflix, metaphor. And one of the boards I sit on is Olo, which is doing online digital ordering. And Danny Meyer, speaking of hospitality, there's no one who more embodies hospitality than the restaurateur Danny Meyer, and he's on that board. And it's been so interesting being an enabler of a digital transformation. And I think that many of the entrepreneurs within the Endeavor ecosystem, and like you're seeing at Sharecare, what have you done to not only focus on your own business model, which is probably accelerated and helped by this, but to see the kind of suffering of the ones that were not digital first, and what role entrepreneurs can play in whether it's supporting different industries or neighborhood businesses in terms of this digital transformation journey that goes on. Because I think one of the things that I've been most proud of is how many Endeavor entrepreneurs have stepped up in COVID, and whether it's changing 3D printing companies to produce PPE, or whether it's taking ed tech platforms and actually providing online education for the entire country in Jordan, or with health tech. I think there's obviously there's all the innovations in the future, but I'm curious what you've thought of in terms of the responsibility of entrepreneurs who are digital first to help other businesses.
Yeah, so a couple themes that we've focused on is one is we have this community well-being index where we've created the largest kind of data warehouse of surveys built around resilience and how you build well-being. So are you physically resilient, mentally resilient, financially resilient? What's your sense of purpose and community? And we rank zip codes all across America. And as part of this pandemic, we've made all that data free to all our academic partners. And so there's this big emerging field, as you know, of urban science and urban services. And now community well-being is at the forefront of community planning. And so we've been making a lot of that data available for free. The second thing that we've done is thought about this idea kind of health security, similar to thinking about cybersecurity. So I think in cybersecurity, is a massive industry that protects infrastructure against a virus. So how should we think about health security, and how do we protect people against a virus? And so we've been building a certification process that you basically tech enable all the standard operating procedures at schools, at hotels, at offices. And so that you have to go through kind of this checklist of best practices to get COVID ready certified for facility readiness and employee readiness. And I think that's going to be a big emerging theme that we're going to see over the next decade is, how do you build health security? Health security being an expectation now, not a goal. And then maybe the goal being, how do you build resilience by improving well-being? So you fortify the health security by making people healthier.
Totally. I'm going to check out Brooklyn Heights' zip code as soon as we get off this.
Okay, good. I'll send it to you.
Okay, good deal. All right, so let's pivot to Endeavor. And one of the things when I twisted your arm to become co-chair of Endeavor Atlanta, I'm so happy to say, many years ago, one of the things that stuck out is you told me this story of how when you were building all your companies, the only time you would get any newspaper coverage in Atlanta is if you did a real estate deal and you like bought an office and other. So is the sense of the community around and the awareness around startups and scale ups? Now, Aaron listed all the people that are on these fastest growing companies list. Is it improving? Where do you think we are today versus 4 or 5 years ago, and where would you like it to see in the next 5 years go?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, I think you have built an incredible platform, and it's been an honor to work with Aaron and work with the board and work with Endeavor Global, because I think the need that you filled in Atlanta, from my perspective, was it's not the startup, but the scale up. It's like, so those things that are companies that are past kind of proof of concept, and where an Endeavor can really come in and say, here's best practices, here's your mentors, here's access to capital, here's access to global markets, and really help these companies make these fast growing lists. And, by achieving the growth that I think Endeavor fuels these companies' path, then they get more recognized, they attract more capital, and they have more business options. And so, I think, with Aaron's leadership, with your playbook and support, I think we're off to a great start in our first, few years, and I think it's just going to continue to grow. And Aaron and I always are bouncing back and forth ideas of, is it just Atlanta, or could we support more of the Southeast? And the team has done an amazing job working, from Nashville to Charlotte to Birmingham, and I think there's opportunities there for our office to, regionally expand.
I love that, and we're so grateful to your thinking. I'm a big believer, by the way, in going all Southeast. And I also think that, I think that now that we've seen how remote work can work, at least for maybe not every job and every role and every company, but it clearly works a lot better than any of us thought. Why not have an R&D center, a SaaS center in, Atlanta? When you see great companies coming out like SalesLoft and Lease Query, I just think that the role model effect is so big. And 2 last questions before I see the last panel getting on. But I think that this idea, Brian Burkeen, one of our Endeavor entrepreneurs that founded Lightship Capital, that just raised $50 million to support founders of color and underserved founders. And I've always thought about Endeavor US in that way, is that we traditionally came from the emerging markets, right? And these were underserved markets. And here the notion of underserved founders, whether they're bootstrappers or they're, coming from environments that traditionally didn't have access to Series B and Series C, or now I think this importance around underserved founders is just becoming very critical for our country. And so I'd love just your thoughts in terms of the role that Endeavor Atlanta and Endeavor US can play on having those underserved founders really achieve the maximum scale.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I see Endeavor Atlanta's role for entrepreneurs being that unifier. And so, how do we bring together the Georgia Techs and the Morehouses and all the great resources that we have in Atlanta and the Southeast, and we play the role as the unifier for entrepreneurs. Endeavor Atlanta does. And, everything that, kind of takes the playbook that we've been taught from Endeavor of best practices to access to capital, to growth strategies, and leveraging the know-how from the amazing pool that Endeavor has pulled together. How do we do that in a microcosm inside Atlanta and the Southeast? But my hopes are that we Endeavor Atlanta for the Southeast become the unifier and open up, opportunities and scale that scale-ups or startups haven't seen before in our area.
I love that. So let's end with one final, thought for you, for all the entrepreneurs watching out there. I know every company and every phase in the journey are different, and I know you are such a data-driven person that you would want to, in order to advise somebody, you want to be very specific. But if you could generalize a bit in terms of 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would love to impart to entrepreneurs having had the success you had, but having gone through the inevitable ups and downs of an entrepreneur's journey. I'd love to know one or two pieces of advice that you wish maybe you had had and you could impart to all the people watching.
Yeah, I think, one is think big. I feel like my entire career through all the various businesses I've been involved in is like it's always people trying to scale down your ideas. You're thinking too big. You can't you can't integrate 16 companies or whatever it may be. And I just felt like that's never been the case. It's always been about this is the journey and the idea has to grow in a very thoughtful way. But like I think big and don't let people reduce your dreams. And then second, surround yourself with winners, is because I think the most precious asset that you have when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to chase those dreams is your time. And what I've found is when I surround myself with winners, people that are smarter than I am, people that work harder than I am, people that have better ideas than I do, is I'm the happiest, right? It's like seeing them successful makes us successful. And, it really is the company that you keep. And so I would think long and hard about, the investors that you have, the people that you hire, and really try to surround yourself with winners.
I love that. And I will just add one more thing on top of those. I agree completely. And Endeavor's new motto has become dream big, scale up, pay it forward. And I think the importance of paying it forward also is underestimated. We talk about the multiplier effect. Maurice Ferre mentioned it on the last panel. And I think that what I love about what you and David Cummings and the other Endeavor Atlanta board members have done, and all our board members worldwide and our entrepreneurs, it's continuing to invest the time, to share the lessons, to share the story, to become founder to funder and actually make the investments that make the flywheel of the entrepreneurship ecosystems go, so that the next time entrepreneurs won't tell another entrepreneur you're thinking too small. They'll think you're not thinking big enough. So I think building out these networks and these ecosystems that are entrepreneur first, I think is something that we sort of pride ourselves in and hold us to. And it's really people like you, Jeff, that make this possible. So I want to thank you on behalf of everyone at Endeavor, and really benefit always from your leadership and your advice.
No, thank you. Thanks, Linda. And I'll leave you with one thing: is I've been spending a lot of time learning about urban sciences and urban services, and I think Endeavor is going to be embedded in all the great communities of tomorrow. I mean, I preach that all the time. I think the platform that you've built is the future of community planning for all the reasons you just said. So thanks for having me involved.
Love that. Mwah.
Okay. Bye-bye.